Hello, I'm taking on a challenge to beat every playable Nintendo published game. Welcome to the next episode. The next game is Radar Scope. Well, this game finally doesn't have space in the name. It's once again a space-themed fixed shooter where you move left to right and fire at oncoming ships. Apparently, this was one of the first video game projects for Shigeru Miyamoto, who worked as an artist for Nintendo at the time. Unfortunately for Nintendo, it looks like the space themes weren't enough to capture the hearts of arcade goers, as this game was a total commercial failure. Nintendo of America had just been established in New York soon before Radar Scope was released, and after an initial positive response to testers in Seattle, Nintendo spent most of their corporate budget on 3,000 units and shipped them to the new headquarters in New York. Unfortunately, this shipment took 4 months to arrive in New York, and by that time the market had lost interest. They were only able to sell a measly 1,000 units due to the game's poor reception, and the other 2,000 units remained sitting in a warehouse. This failure was extremely costly for Nintendo, and it put them in a financial crisis. In a desperate attempt to make up profits, Nintendo quickly developed another game that they could use to repurpose the machines in the warehouse. However, since this is a video on Radar Scope, I'm not going to spoil what happened to those machines until we get to that video in the future. So, was this game bad enough to warrant this massive failure? Let's find out. While this game is very similar to many of the other space games at this time, there were 2 key differentiators in this game that made it a bit different from the others. The first big change was that you were in control of a space station named the Sonic Spaceport instead of being in control of a single ship. You moved a laser left to right and would fire at the oncoming ships, piloted by the villainous Gamma Raiders. While this so far seems functionally identical to just controlling a ship, certain attacks from the enemies could damage your space station, and the station had its own damage meter that you had to manage. The second major change was their attempt to make the game appear three-dimensional through the use of a grid, and by increasing the size of the enemy ships as they got closer to the player. The game begins with an intense cutscene. Captain, your duties are to shoot 48 UFOs. Good luck. After this, you are thrown right into the action. The enemies sway forward and backwards at the top of the screen, and they eventually fly forwards and attempt to hit the space station. When they are swooping down, it is prime time to fire at them, since you can't always hit them when they are in the back. They also launch space mines, and if you don't defeat them, the space station will take damage. This game is really hectic, and I lost my first life pretty quickly. When you get hit, your ship explodes and forms the shape of a skull. Despite how hectic this game was, I still managed to beat level 1 on my first try. After a brief report on how well you did, the next level begins right away. The enemy ships have changed color, and while nothing else has really changed, I think the enemies fire more lasers in this level. I lost a lot of lives here, but I managed to beat it with 1 life remaining. In level 3, the enemy UFOs have changed color again, and in this one final mechanic is introduced. Sometimes, after destroying a ship, it goes down in flames. You have to hit it again to completely destroy it, and if you fail to defeat it in time, the space station will take heavy damage. I finally died on this level, and got a game over. On the high score screen for this one, the game introduced something we're going to start to see more often in arcade games. The game came with a list of already existing high scores, and somehow, I was already at the top. I was pretty satisfied with the game at this point, but I decided to give the game one more go. Once again, I died on the 3rd level though. Initially, I stopped at this point. However, while writing the script, I found out you get a bonus message for beating level 3. This felt like a better ending than what I had done, so I came back to the game and tried to beat level 3. On my first run back, I once again only made it to level 3. On my next run, I decided to focus more on clearing out ships and surviving, instead of defending the base. The base never got all that close to losing all of its health, so I figured it could last at least through level 3 if I neglected it a bit more. I also found out here that hiding in the corners seemed to be relatively safe, although you can't hide there forever since your base will eventually run out of life. These new strats gave me the extra edge that I needed, and I finally beat level 3. With that, I was rewarded with a special message. Congratulations, I wish you to do your best. Totally worth it. With that, the game was finally complete. On to the review. Did this game deserve to fail as hard as it did? Well, I personally didn't enjoy it too much, but it wasn't really any worse than a lot of the other stuff Nintendo was releasing at the time. I was already starting to get burnt out by all the space-themed fixed shooters by this point, and any of the changes they made to the formula weren't really enough to differentiate it from the others. It does feel slightly higher quality than some of their other entries at this point, but I just didn't find it particularly interesting to play. I gave the game another 5 out of 10. Thanks for watching the video. If you want to see more of these in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you won't miss out on the next one. Also leave a like if you enjoyed it, since it'll help the channel grow and motivate me to continue this series. I hope I'll see you in the next step of my quest to beat every Nintendo game.